If your opinion is a little bit different than the masses in the homeschool community, just know you are not alone. In today's video, I am sharing with you a few of my homeschool hot takes, so stick around. Before we get into hot takes, there are two very important things that I need to tell you. One, the giveaway for the Not Consumed Bible Study is still going. I will leave the link to enter into that down in the description. And also, I'm going to leave you a link to something else that's happening within the Made to Homeschool community, sort of, but you don't need to be a member for. It's a whole thing. I can't quite tell you yet. However, I'll leave the link down below where you can sign up to get all of the information as soon as it is released. Check those out below. This video is actually in collaboration with two of my very best friends, Katie at Life in the Mundane and Wendy over at Plan Prep Pray. Their videos will be linked in the description as well, so make sure you go check them out. Now let's get into the hot takes. The very first thing that I would consider a homeschool hot take is that you don't actually have to fit into any kind of mold or a specific type of homeschooler. I often see a lot of websites or blogs or things like that suggesting that as you start planning your homeschool journey, one of the first things that you need to do is to figure out what type of homeschooler you are. And honestly, I've been homeschooling almost 4 years, and I really don't even know what kind of homeschooler I am. And I don't think that's something that you're able to figure out before beginning homeschooling. I think naturally, as you learn and as you continue to homeschool and your children continue to grow and you try new things, naturally, yes, you do tend to fall into some kind of category of homeschooler, but I don't think that's really a very easy thing to figure out before homeschooling because you don't know what homeschooling looks like and you don't know what your family is going to enjoy more than others, and sometimes that even changes within season. Another example of not fitting into the mold is I don't actually love reading aloud. I love the idea of reading aloud, but I'm just not great with consistency. I tend to put myself to sleep. It could be the most amazing story, and I put myself to sleep. And I honestly just prefer audiobooks. It takes the stress off of me. It's not something that I have to keep up with all the time. It saves storage on my bookshelves. It's something that my daughter and I can do in the car because when it's just her and I, yes, we like to snuggle up on the couch and read a little book, but it's just not the same as when you have multiple children that you're all trying to gather. And we don't do morning basket for that reason, another hot take, because this just doesn't work with our family dynamics and it doesn't work with the way our mornings work. And so naturally, read aloud time just doesn't really fit in. And this is a big one. We actually use screens in our homeschool and outside of our homeschool. Now, it is limited and there are rules regarding screen time and things that are allowed and not allowed, things that need to be completed prior to, and all of those types of things. But we are not an anti-screen time family. So if you are feeling overwhelmed with the idea of needing to know what style homeschooler you are, don't worry. You will figure it out as you go, and it's probably going to change over time anyway. This next one is a hot topic. I started homeschooling before my daughter was 6 years old. There have been a lot of different people who have suggested, sometimes personally to me, and that I have just seen on the interwebs, that you should not school your child prior to 6 years old. Now, I will say I have seen that kind of shift a little bit to, well, you shouldn't use a formal curriculum with your child under the age of 6. My biggest pushback against this idea that you can't school before 6 is that if your child is interested in school, they're interested in books and what they're about and learning colors, and they want to draw on paper, why would we want to extinguish that? Why would we take that away from them? If they have a natural curiosity for learning, it's our job to help facilitate that. I do think generally what is being talked about is more of the pressure that a mom may feel to start homeschooling their child prior to 6-year-old. You're feeling the pressure of, well, they're 4, they need to start learning to read or things like that. And that is not at all what I am advocating for. But what I will say is that if you have a child who is naturally just interested in learning, sometimes that looks like reading, sometimes that looks like colors and alphabet, sometimes it's bugs or plants, or it can be a variety of things. And that's going to look different for every family and for every child. I would encourage you to help flourish that curiosity and do it in a way that is not overwhelming for you or for your child. There are plenty of preschool curriculums available that are designed specifically with preschoolers in mind. So 3 and 4 years old, there's a little bit of play involved in learning your numbers, learning the colors, things like that. And it's designed for maybe a 10-15 minute little school session, and that's it. But that may actually be really helpful for a new homeschooling mom because it allows you to school without having to come up with all of those things on your own. And it may just give you a little peace of mind that you're following some kind of structure and that you're not going to miss anything. So, making the blanket statement that you should not homeschool your child before 6 years old just doesn't sit right with me. And my last hot take is sometimes you have to say no. And no can mean a lot of different things and can look very different for everyone. For me personally, we actually had to say no to co-op for the fall semester because it just became too much. We have so many things going on, and while we loved co-op and it was great, it just wasn't working with our schedule and with all of the things we have going on. It's okay for us to say, yes, this is a good thing, but it's just not working for us. There are opportunities now for homeschoolers haven't always been, and so we feel like we need to participate in all of these things, and we need to make sure our kids are getting plenty of socialization and they're involved in all of these activities. Otherwise, our education journey with our children is not sufficient. However, once you have an overpacked schedule, it then becomes detrimental to your family, right? You're running around everywhere and you have to be home in order to homeschool. A lot of times there are internal and external pressures that make us feel like we have to do all of these things, when in all honesty, sometimes just saying no frees us from some of that pressure and really allows us to have our homeschools work best for our families. And again, this changes through different seasons, and just because you say no once doesn't mean that it is no forever. Maybe it's just this month or this season that you're in that saying no is actually more beneficial, but in another season, it may be a resounding yes, we cannot wait. This is going to be so valuable to our homeschool now. I mentioned that we actually dropped co-op for the fall semester, and I had some thoughts to share with you regarding things you need to consider before joining a homeschool co-op. You can see that video here. Otherwise, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will talk to you soon.